Minister for Finance. The impression created here is that ECG has been so poorly managed that it will take a miracle to resuscitate it. Let me start with you. The kind of ECG you met when President Akufo-Addo appointed you, and the kind of ECG you left behind.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And when you ask what I met, I was appointed on the 13th of May, 2022. When I took office, I had already been on the board, so I had a fair insight of what was going on in the company. So you decide to fix a few things or to find out what actually goes to the cracks. But the one major thing that was missing from the board, and of which I was part of the implementation committee because we wanted it to happen, was ECG didn't have a project management office. So at that point, you could realize that there were a whole lot of projects around, somewhere 10%, 8%. So there were a whole lot of projects that needed to be completed. But in 2022, when we got in, one of the things I mentioned to the board was that, look, there's too much work to be done, but there's not much money to do this work. This is because if you quite cast your mind back, in the first tenure of President Akufo-Addo, ECG was to be privatized.
Right.
So there was zero investment into the company.
Zero.
Zero. So all the works were aimed at what? Sending ECG into what? Privatization. Now, the whole PDS thing happened. It got botched after 8 months, 9 months. ECG reverted back. The country went into an election. Fast forward, 2021, I was on the board. 2022, I had the opportunity to serve as managing director. When I sat in the chair, the first thing you ask is to find out the status or the health check of the company.
Right.
When that came in, you could see that there was massive growth in the number of people in the number of customers, but it didn't reflect in the data that we had.
Meaning what exactly?
So you now have there was a system that was given to them called the CMS, the Commercial Management System. That was a World Bank project, but it had its own deficiencies. That billing system didn't have the capacity to take in the number of customers. So when it hit the 4.5 million mark, all the people that they were inserting as new customers were not dropping into the billing system. So they were hanging.
And so what? They were enjoying electricity for free?
So basically, if you don't find the person, how do you bill them? In your mind, you put them in the system, but the person comes, you can't find them in the system.
And this is ECG's own problem?
Yeah, that was the situation that I met. Again, there were a lot of discrepancies in the thinking around the company called ECG. When I say the thinking, what do I mean? With the data analytics brought to me by the PMO, the Project Management Office, pointed out that there were over 700 projects, electrical infrastructure projects that were outstanding, about 100 more in civil works, and in customer service, only 12. At that point in time, you would realize that the business side that is supposed to bring the money in is not really being looked at in terms of business, but the critical infrastructure is being made sure that it's available so that everybody can access. So what I then did was to have a good discussion with the board to tell them that, look, there's no critical new or 21st century utility that doesn't invest in how they interface with their customers. So we went on a very ambitious drive to change the narrative in terms of our customers and our customer relations.